Hello and welcome back to another edition of Indiepocalypse Radio, coming at you again every Saturday, or pretty much every Saturday. I was like, am I going to not be here next Saturday? But I am going to be here next Saturday. But the following Saturday, I will not be here again, going out to the markets, as they say. And who is this going out to the markets? I'm Andrew. I am the host of Indiepocalypse Radio, that being the kind of chill out, hangout radio portion of Indiepocalypse, the monthly indie game alternative collection that just came out yesterday, a newest edition 46. This is a show where we kind of hang out and we talk to people in primarily the Indiepocalypse space, but sometimes the broader game development space, sometimes even the broader art space. But here we're in the broader non-Indiepocalypse family, as I'm trying to branch out more and just like, what if you just DM people and be like, hey, you want to be on the show? And they often say yes. And one of those people who said yes, you may know from their work on the tentatively upcoming, I don't know how you say that sort of thing in the indie space, the done when it's done space with Spirit Swap. It's Alex. Alex, hello, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Yeah, it's coming soon, TM,
Yes.
eventually. Yeah, well, it's it's gonna happen for sure. Just
No,
not really sure when.
eventually video games have to be finished,
Yeah, finished or canceled, and we don't have a publisher,
Right.
so
You can't lay yourself off. Or I guess,
no, I've tried many
right.
times. It's not working out for me.
I guess you can just quit. I guess that's laying yourself off. But
No, I can't. I can't, especially not with a Kickstarter. I feel like that's one of those
oh,
things where it's
right.
like, yeah.
Well, from those nice little warnings I get from Kickstarter, they tell me these are not pre-orders. So technically, you could just be like, "See you, folks."
Technically. I know, but it
Yeah.
feels so bad.
No.
It
Yeah.
feels so bad when people are like, here you go, we trust you. Do your thing and be creative and make the game that you've always wanted to make. And I go, thanks, bye.
Yeah. No. As someone who went out today to mail something because I get obsessed with like, even though I'm a person like, oh, I need to mail things out on release date. They need to be out perfectly. Even though it's like, would people care if it was like not immediately sent out? But
Okay,
yeah.
dude, here's okay, I don't know how you like crowdfund things, but for me and what I found for a lot of people in our space,
Yeah.
when we crowdfund something, we do it because we like the creators and we don't really like I don't care if I get something back from a Kickstarter, I'm very happy. But most of the time it doesn't really matter. It feels like more of a bonus. If
Yeah.
it never comes out, it never comes out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
especially under capitalism, like it's like we all got circumstances.
I have not kickstarted a video game in a very long time or crowdfunded it. What was the last? I don't remember. What was the last video game that I attempted to crowdfund? And did any of them ever come out? I think the answer is no. No,
What was the
there's one.
last one? See, now you're making me think about it. Mm.
I think I backed
I
Radio
think
the
it was Time
Universe.
Spinner. Oh,
I
did that come out?
I think it's coming out. It seems like it is. I did. I also
Yeah.
backed Octodad as my first one back in the day, and I still have a
Are you serious?
yeah. I have an Octodad plush hanging around somewhere in my
Hell
room,
yeah.
in my house. I've been around the indie
Hell
space
yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah,
Uh,
man, remember when Octodad was indie? Damn. I
yes,
mean, they're still indie, but damn.
in the broadest sense, in the way that
Yeah.
whatever Wes Anderson is indie, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah.
It's that
Do you ever
same.
feel like the term indie is so broad that it doesn't really mean anything anymore? It's more like a vibe.
Yeah, it's kind of it's why when I talk about things, I use alternative a lot now. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes I dip into underground because I feel like those are
Hell
kind
yeah.
of getting the vibe of what I'm going for.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially since people have like a certain sense of like what indie means now. Like, especially as like publishers kind of co-opt vibes, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like a lot of like these double A or triple I publishers, like, okay, I'm a bit of a purist and like
Yeah.
I don't want to like get into the like no true Scotsman Discord, but for
Yes.
me, if you have a fucking publisher who's giving you millions of dollars, should you be really calling yourself indie? I mean, you are literally dependent on your
Right.
publisher.
You can have funding
So
canceled. And
yeah, like I don't know. Maybe that's why I was saying like indie feels more like a vibe
yeah,
now. It's more like it's a small game that is not triple A.
I've been trending towards the term budgeted a lot more, because that's kind of like
What do you
my
mean by budgeted?
like. Do you have a like I, for instance, do not have a budget. My budget is
Oh.
like my bank account, and same for like I think most indie like most the quote unquote itch.io dev does not have a budget.
Hmm.
They make games.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah, I like that. I
but
like that.
but if you can like hire staff and pay people a salary and a wage, that's like you're like a budgeted dev.
Yeah. Man, a salary.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry. I
No,
got so wistful about salary.
even I'm wistful about salaries, sort of. But I like being hourly because it means when 4 o'clock rolls around, you know what else rolls around is my feet out the door.
Hell yeah.
I'm out of this place and heading straight home. But we've been talking a lot about games nebulously. If people aren't familiar, what is a spirit swap more specifically?
So Spirit Swap is kind of my love letter and my team, like not just me, but
Yeah,
the concept is a deep love for Panel Upon, which became Tetris Attack in the US, which became Planet Puzzle League, Pokemon Puzzle League. I really love these like action, like competitive match three puzzlers.
yeah,
Uh, and I've always wanted to bring back like the aesthetic that the further they penetrated into like the North American market, I felt like they completely lost, which is like the cutesy, very feminine, very magical girl style of the original Panel de Pon, I want to say 1994.
yeah,
And so that's kind of what I wanted to make. And when we were making our studio, Soft Not Week, me at the time and my two roommates, we were like, okay, we need a simple game that we can finish in a few months.
yes.
Just
I didn't realize you
you can
started
see where
this.
this is going.
I didn't realize you started
Yeah.
Spirit Swap this year.
Oh my God. No, it's oh, I don't even I'm gonna laugh because I don't want to cry. But yeah, it was
Right.
like what would be like a really quick thing we can make together, 3 months tops, get the idea going, see how we work together, see how and that was October 2019.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which you
yeah,
predate even me.
I know it's so stupid.
It's yeah. It's like, but that is like a scale of like game development. You know, that's not that bad. It's like look when you ever see those indie smash hits come out, and then it's like, what was it? I always confuse these two. Which one was the time loop one? Was that Outer Wilds?
Was it Outer? Yeah, I think it's
Okay, because it was that and Outer
Outer
Worlds came out
Wild.
around the same time, and I played neither of them, and I forget both of them. Which one is which constantly?
I think it's Outer Wilds. I
Okay,
think you're right. I didn't play them either, but I watched all my friends play
yeah,
Outer Wilds
but I
and go
remember
crazy about it.
when Outer Wilds came out, and then like IndieCade was like, "Congratulations to Outer Wilds!" Are like it was something like 2011 IndieCade finalist or something, and I was like,
You're kidding.
it was some ridiculous amount of time, like either approaching or over a decade. Uh, and I'm like, yeah, this is, but people don't have like that. We were talking this in like the pre-show, sort of, also, but like people don't have a sense of like what it takes to make indie games, quote unquote.
Yeah, especially on like whatever scale. Honestly, the if I don't know if like you do any other type of art that isn't video games, but like even drawing, the
Yeah,
for me the hardest thing when I'm drawing is finishing something. It is literally the hardest part of any project is like being like, and it's done.
yeah, right. It's just like I'm not doing this anymore. I I can, especially like I think digital has made it a lot of worse in some ways because I'll just add another layer or I'll just
Yes, yeah,
undo. I can,
yep.
it feeds like in that kind of like cruel iteration
Yeah, the
mentality.
tyranny of having options. It
Right.
yeah, it sucks. I love it. I love making art. It
But
sucks.
but then you're like, if I was just putting ink on paper, I can't control Z my ink. I'm just stuck in this
Yeah,
thing.
then it just sucks forever.
Yeah, then you have
Yeah.
a weird.
Sorry.
No, I think about that that like Magic the Gathering with a weird pen stroke or whatever that's just on the back of the card.
It's so good. Like I
Yeah,
love that shit. That's the thing. Like I really wish we could lean into just making shit that is not perfect.
right.
Not even good. Like that's like one thing I struggle with a lot, and probably why Spirit Swap has taken as long as it has, or like a big reason why, is that I can't let myself put out something that I'm not at least proud of. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? And pride is such a fucking poison. It
right.
feels like it's just it sucks. It's like just make you know when you're a kid and you're just like fucking drawing and you're like, hell yeah, this is a stick figure that looks like ass and now I'm gonna put it on, the wall or
Right.
it's just you're just making shit. And then that's like the catch 22 of making art is that the more you make shit, the better you get at making shit. But we are like also and including myself, I literally have like this paralysis of like what if I make it and it's not good and other people witness it with their eyes? Have I offended them forever?
Right.
Are they never going to trust me again if I make something that is less than exactly correct?
Yeah, and
Um,
I think the internet is like exacerbated that to like the worst degree because it feels like, oh, we all have to agree consensus. We all need to agree that this is the best thing ever. Uh,
yeah, I mean, anyone on social media feels that. You probably feel
yeah,
that too. Like, if
yeah,
the thing I put all my love into, I put out there and then nobody looks at, was it worth it? And the answer should be yes.
yes, yeah. No, I started off in my post mortem of last year declaring 2023 is going to be my laid back year, and it's like helped a
Hell
lot.
yeah. How'd it work out?
Oh, it's great. I like no longer care in positive way kind of way, where I used to
Yeah.
I used to obsess over like it's I never why can't I get even 100 shares on twitter.com. I don't think I ever reached 100 shares for release. And I'll be like, oh, all these people are constantly talking about indie games. Why don't they talk about this thing that's clearly in there, what they're talking about? I'm like, who cares?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's honestly really poison. I mean, I didn't even know about Indiepocalypse until literally like last year,
Yeah,
I feel. Like around 2022. Like it's and it is completely up my alley, which is like the really fucked up thing is like you always like whenever I stop and go like why isn't anybody doing X? It turns out someone was doing
yeah.
X all along, but I
Sometimes,
just did not find them. Yeah.
yeah. Or someone's been doing X for a decade or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so fucking frustrating. And also it happens when we were making Spirit Swap where I was like, why is no one making Panel to Pawn likes? And then I discovered Panel Attack and I was like,
or
never
or,
mind.
or like the oops, I was like, you see that there's so much. Like I thought you were gonna say pedal crash.
Pedal Crash. No, I mean like
Yeah,
Panel Attack is like online multiplayer and like modded like by a community. Like I'm not gonna say open source because I don't think it's open source,
right.
but it is like a huge project that has been running for years and years and years. And like Pedal Crash is awesome. And I think they just aren't they releasing Pedal Crash too?
Something
Man,
like
Pedal
that.
Crash fucking rules. Yeah, they're really good. Like there's so many like games out there that until like I thought I was, like the God come again of like I am just going to remake Panel to Pawn but make it gay.
Yeah,
Um yeah, I didn't realize was there just because I don't know, like a part of me is like I didn't do the research
but also
before
like
I needed to.
you can't research the whole internet.
Yeah, like how do you find that? Like especially with like yeah, like don't get me on my soapbox about like the death of Google and like the
Yeah.
usability of search engines and all of that, but it feels really hard to find shit, and I'm not sure if it's because there's so much more shit to wade through or we're being like deliberately obfuscated from anything that isn't like sponsored.
Oh, yes, yes. The search results are definitely much worse, and like I think social media is the same kind of like double edged sword of that, where it's
Hmm.
like I think it makes discovery like way worse, and I don't even think it's just like algorithms, because I was thinking it's like what's better. Would I rather trade an algorithm for being found by an algorithm versus being found by a popular user? And I don't think either of them is preferable to me.
Yeah, no, that makes total fucking sense. It's really weird because yes, I want a curated space,
Yeah,
which ostensibly is what algorithms are supposed to be doing. And I put like 14 quotation marks around
yeah,
that. But also, I would like human curation. I do not fucking want a machine that looks at like the things that anger me the most because that's how what we react to the
It
most
is,
and
yeah.
then gives me more of that. Just
No.
like
No, not using Twitter at all. And then when basically just log on if someone sends me a message, and so it defaults to the For You page, and I always get a glimpse of like some like utterly bizarre like drama that's blown up within some subculture, and it's like I don't
yeah.
have anything to do with you know amateur slot cars. Why am I getting a piece of slot car drama?
Well, now you looked at it, so you're gonna get more. Enjoy.
Ah,
It's like the
yes.
whole like the joke of like Amazon's algorithm being like, you bought a toilet seat. Here's ad for 14 other toilet seats. It's
All
like,
right.
no. It's what?
Why would I? Yes, no. I mean, I do have 14 toilets, so
Okay, you know what? That's a you thing. Like I don't yeah, that's just you.
it's the benefits of living the high life of
Yeah.
high life of publishing or whatever.
That
I'm
big alt games money.
yes,
Delicious.
rolling in alt games money. Can't get enough of it. That's why I don't get accepted in indie game little places because I have too much money.
Yeah,
uh,
it wouldn't be ethical.
yes, right. It's like too big a publisher to allow into this. I don't think you really know much about experimental games to be involved in this workshop, perhaps.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Not at all. Anyway, that's just me. I have no beef with any particular sort of thing. Because I also realized that's the other thing of running events. You have to realize events and publications where it's like, oh no, these things also have to like make money and build an audience, and a an unknown little thing does not benefit them. So why would they feature it?
yeah, almost like we need art grants and, financing for the arts, but
Ah, yeah,
it's okay. It's
that
okay.
that would be
I hear they
nice.
have it in Europe.
No, yeah, it's the one time I was showing games at like a gaming kind of event in Canada, they were like, people thought I was Canadian, so they were telling me about art grants. I'm like, I'm an American. I don't have those.
Oh my God. Yeah, when we started Off Not Week and we were like, this is going to be a cooperative and we started looking for grants, we found like so many grants and they were all in Canada. It was so
Yes, just
frustrating.
take a little trip atop the border and just head over to old Canada. But
They were literally saying shit like, "Are you a video game cooperative looking to get started?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Guess what? As a Canadian." And I'm like, "Never mind. All right,
right,
cool."
I did a show to museum once, and that was the closest I got, and it was great because they paid me to go there, and
Hell
also
yeah. Wow.
yeah, and they paid my travel too. Like
What?
yeah, when I was leaving, like it was a paid spot there, and then when as I was talking to the curator, she was like, "Oh wait, you're not from Ohio, are you?" Like I'm like no, I'm from Mass, and she was like, "Oh, send me your receipts for your travel. We'll comp them for you."
That's so nice.
It's just like museums; they have money. They have money for funding arts. It's not
Wow.
like PAX or whatever,
Huh.
where it's like I'm gonna pay $2,000 to
I mean,
go.
we did PAX together and we still had to like we didn't have to pay anything to PAX, but like, you need supplies and everything.
Right,
And like your controllers, you need to basically bring everything except the booth for PAX Together. No, not PAX Together. PAX Rising.
right.
Um,
That's the good one to get into.
yeah, it was really good. Honestly, it was mind blowing. Like, I didn't expect it to be as for me life changing, but like given that we started in 2019 and we didn't have anything to show until 2020,
Yeah,
we've basically always developed the game in like the pandemic sort of mindset even now. So when we got into PAX Rising, that was the one time where we were like, okay, we are going to be super careful, but we are going to do this because it feels like a once in a lifetime thing. And the best thing about PAX Rising was the people playing the game and then coming back like the next day or like
yeah,
bringing their friends. That was, dude, that was so fucking life changing.
right.
I was like hiding to cry. I was so fucking happy. I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy because you work on a thing for so long. You're like, okay, well, the people who tell me they love it are my friends, so they're
Yeah,
probably just lying to me.
right.
And
Exactly.
then
I
Yeah, you know,
I have that same mentality where like people who have adopted who like got in early enough, I no longer trust their their as bad as that
but you're
sounds.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it sounds bad, but like that's how it feels like, right? You're like, oh, whatever I make, whatever garbage I make, you're
Right.
gonna tell me you love it just
Right.
because you're nice to me. And
Right.
it's
I
like, do
because
you
I
hear
paid you
yourself?
to I paid you to be in this thing. Of course you like this thing.
Yeah, of course you like this thing. It's yeah, and it's honestly a little bit it was like a shock to my system to realize how many like strangers that I hadn't paid or wasn't friends with were
Right.
just kind of showing up to be like, "Hey, this actually fucking rules." And I really needed that to
Yeah.
like be able to push the game into like that final phase of like, okay,
It's
let's get it out there.
Alex, it's almost as if most of the kind of like online hype culture is based around who you're friends with and whether or not you have advertising money.
What? No. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost
Yeah.
it's almost as if people's favorite indie games are the ones that are popular and the ones that my friends made.
Yep. No. Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
which isn't like
100%. Yeah.
that sounds catty, but it's not a value judgment. Of course, you should promote the stuff your friends like.
I
Like,
mean, I think it's good until it becomes like a click thing.
yeah,
Like I do think like we owe it to each other as like smaller creators and to uplift each other, especially when we feel like we're doing something like interesting or different
yeah,
or important. But also it's just not really feasible a lot of the time just because
right.
you have people have limited attention, quote unquote, and also you're fighting an algorithm and all of those things. But it's nice. Like dev communities that support each other are really really nice. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't have anything very deep to say. I
no,
just think it's nice when people
it is.
support each other.
Yeah, that's it's the simpler. It's like it's why I have my strict no repeats policy. So to avoid this
Yeah.
becoming like a clique of it's all the same devs in this thing again.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I didn't know you had that policy. That's actually really cool.
yeah, well, it was a soft policy. It was like, no repeats until 6 months, but that was me thinking like, surely this will catch on and there'll be other collections. There are not still, uh, at least with any kind of regularity that would be considered to be like a
Attraction. I'm gonna honestly convince my friend who keeps saying I really wanted to do what Indiepocalypse is doing.
yeah.
I can't believe he did it first to be like, no, you should also do it, and you two should collaborate. I
And
think that would be
I
cool.
I 100% did not do it first. I mean, I'm sure there are other indie bundles as well, but I'm even just in terms of I just stole this idea from comic anthologies. It's not a new idea. Uh,
I
uh,
mean, yeah, but it's still it is technically.
right,
You
right,
were like, what if comic anthology but games?
right. The
So,
old, the old, the old butt game spin. Uh,
yeah,
and it does.
it's every pitch. It's like the pitch deck where like you take something familiar and you change one thing, which
Yes.
yeah.
What if Mario jumped sideways instead of up and down?
Well, wow,
Ah,
that's
yeah. Now I'm thinking.
mm. Now, yeah, now you're cooking with gas.
Yeah. I don't know what that means. Um, that pitch means, but it uses a name people recognize.
It
Yeah,
gets the people going.
yeah. No, there's tons of space in this, like to do, and plenty of people. I may or may not have recorded a panel with with five other people who have published similar projects who all do it have a different approach to it. Like there's no like
Hell yeah.
I it would be unlikely that someone else is going to make the zine portion with the little booklet and the very specific way that I go about doing it, um,
But it's so good.
with the magazine aesthetic and just like it's also really great for events. That's basically the reason I did it to demo the thing at events because how do you demo 10 games? And
That is, yeah, okay. Yeah, see, like you really thought that shit through.
yeah,
That's
I
you got you got that brain on you, Andrew. You're making it work.
I have to. I thought too much. This was for long. I mean, a lot of time it was me saying somebody should do this until I realized that nobody was going to do it. And I was like, well, I'll just do it. And
Yeah,
so
that's how I felt about yeah, Panel Upon. I was like, why is no one bringing this back? And then, oh, I forgot this part of the story. We started in 2019, and once it was too far in for it to like do anything, Nintendo was like, we're bringing back Panel Upon for
oh
free
yeah.
on the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console, March 2020. Mark your calendars. And I was like,
Well, now,
okay.
but now you're releasing to like the healthy Switch market where everything's on a Switch cart. I'm getting more Switch carts than ever.
No.
Uh,
Why are you saying that?
yeah, no, that is. I don't know how hard it is. People should just be publishing on USB sticks. Too many consoles
Honestly,
with the
that would
little thing.
be so nice.
There's too much
Yeah.
absurdity of it. I highly recommend listeners, if you're an indie dev, USB sticks are super cheap. You can just put
Yeah,
stuff
they're
on
the
it.
future. Just
Yeah,
put shit on it.
put it on it.
I mean, you're joking, but I do have games like when I buy collector's edition from like indie games. I don't remember the last one that I bought, but it was literally a case with a USB stick in it and a little booklet and a little cassette for
Yeah,
like the the soundtrack. And I thought that was the coolest shit I had ever seen.
I've sold over 100 of those things at this point.
Hell yeah.
My little cassette case kind of releases that I highly encourage it as like just a form factor that I think indie devs should use because all of it put together is so inexpensive to produce. Like
Hell yeah.
cassette cases are cheap, USB sticks are cheap, the little covers are cheap because it's just
Are they
like
really that cheap?
if you let's break down some USB sticks. I buy big ones. So I buy like 8 gig ones, which the average
Yeah.
indie dev won't need, but they're like maybe over $1 from AliExpress, and then like uh, cassette cases are under $1, and the paper inserts are practically free. They're like 30 cents or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Huh. Because I was looking into vinyls and I'm like, man, that shit is expensive. I
oh
don't know
yeah,
why. At no point was I like,
yeah.
cassettes are probably cheap.
Yeah, I don't know how much producing actual cassettes costs, but yeah, no, the form factor that I work in is maybe $2 per at most, plus
That's
a
so
little.
fucking cool.
Yeah,
So wait, you just put like the USB stick inside it?
yep. I just stick it in there. I just tape it to the inside of the cassette case and call it a day.
Okay, you tape it because I was like, doesn't it just like jingle around? Sorry, these are the
Yeah.
stupidest questions
No,
you ever
no,
hear. It's
I
not
like
like,
I like
wow,
answering very logistic questions because, like I said,
oh, I love that. And then
I
you have like the name of like the games on like the little like
yeah,
foldy bit.
yeah, like
Oh, that's so
as like the
cool.
track listing, yeah, and folks, it also works. People love them at events. They're
Hell
like,
yeah.
oh, these things are awesome, and it's how you can like sell. My proclamation of like towards the beginning of the pandemic was like, folks, when events start back up, we should all, if we bring games to events, we should explicitly sell things. No one goes to events anymore and not sell games. It obviously did not happen. um,
Yeah. I don't even know where like, the stop is like for events are back or not back because I'm still over here like unless it's like a really, extenuating circumstance, I am staying my ass home
yes,
and trying to like,
I
yeah, it's ugh.
I have I worked from the beginning till uh, last year within in the retail space. So I
Oh,
have I have a specific kind of brain rot where it's like, yeah, of course I'm going out in public. I did it I did it for 40
yeah.
hours every week. It just became
Yeah,
normal.
no. No, that makes total fucking
Only
sense.
only
Yeah,
got
no.
it twice.
Damn. Oh my God, that's so scary.
Yeah,
Dude,
and
I just got the fucking booster and it knocked me out, like full body shivers, racks, like
yeah,
rolling around like I was possessed. And I was like, okay, so if I had caught this strain of COVID, it probably would have killed me.
yeah. No, I only had it. I've never had it that bad. Really, I got very fortunate with that, where it just never really hit me too hard. But the other added benefit is like I feel like people are finally like more accepting of like quote unquote sick time. People are more respecting
Yeah.
of uh, not going just like, oh, I'm not going to go to work. I'm just going to stay home if I'm sick, and I don't want sick people around me anymore.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. I just wear a mask everywhere now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
it's hard at events sometimes. It's been so long since I've done like a fully all day. I explained to me, I'm like, oh, I'm hoarse now. uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but with that said, we're approaching the end of our segment here. We ran a little long, but that's fine because so I have two important, long-standing Indiepocalypse questions that I need to ask every guest that comes through these parts. Uh,
Okay.
what's your favorite type of rock, Alex?
Hmm. I'm thinking about this deeply for some
Okay.
reason.
No, no. It takes.
So if you mean the music, I would definitely say progressive rock, like Stradivarius, like metal, progressive metal rock. If you're talking about like rocks like in the ground, I really like pebbles that have been like super polished on the beach, like the ones that have like different
Yeah.
colors in them. Yeah.
There was
Which
no
one was it?
specification. There is no specification. It's your interpretation of the question.
Oh,
So
damn.
both perfectly acceptable answers. That almost is, itself is like a test to see which one people lean towards as their instinct of rock. Uh,
Damn.
but the follow up question, and these questions come from people who are asking them every single week, and then I decide to, like, I like to ask them. They're fun little questions to gauge things. And this one is an optional question. It is, do you have a favorite Toho character?
I know nothing about Toho, but I like the witch character with like the blondish hair because
Yes,
it's in a Slay the Spire mod that I thought was great.
Marisa.
Yes,
They
Marisa,
they
thank you.
have their someone actually made a Slay the Spire Toho Slay the Spire entire game out of it, or
Is it
maybe
not just like the mod, the Spire mod? That's like, yeah, it is the entire like you can just play in Marisa's world and like meet the other
yeah.
Toho
I
characters.
maybe
Yeah,
it is
it
maybe
fucking rules.
I don't know. Is that the one with the when I first I saw someone streaming at one point. It had a lot of good art on the cards, like very
Yeah,
exceptional.
it has really good fucking art. I mean, it's
Okay,
Toho, right? And then
yeah.
it has like its own mechanic. Like the character has its own mechanics.
Yes. Okay. So I think we are talking about the same thing. I knew it was Slay the Spire
Yes.
inspired. I didn't know if it was that it was built like on top of, like, modded on top of it.
If we're talking about the same thing, yeah, it's part of the Mod the Spire content that you can
So
find on
maybe
like
we're
Steam
talking about
Workshop and
different
all that.
things. Who knows? We don't have forever to sit
Maybe.
and think about. Um,
Yeah, whatever it is, send it to me because
yeah,
I always want to play more Slay the Spire likes.
I played some of that like 3 days ago when I loaded up my
Hell yeah.
Xbox account, and I was like, what if I still have this installed? What if I play that? I'm like, no, I want to play new video games that I haven't played yet. So I'm doing a little bit of those. But speaking of video games, Alex, thank you so much for being here on the show and hanging out.
Thank you.
Where can where if people are looking for Spirit Swap or just anything you've got to send their way, where can people look for that?
I would say everything is on spiritswapgame.com, or if you're on Twitter for some godforsaken reason,
Excuse me,
we are at
X.com.
Soft Not We. I will never say, you cannot pay me enough money to call it whatever that idiot's calling it. At
I
Soft Not
Yeah.
We is our account. So yeah, if check out the game and if you like it, uh, and you maybe intend to buy it someday, I would say wishlist it. If
Yes.
not, don't feel like you have to.
Or something I would do. I just kind of wish list things because it takes 2 seconds to do. My Here's
Yeah,
my
but I know
yeah
I don't want to. Yeah, I
right
feel always weird being like wish list this even if you're never gonna fucking look at it. You know what I
yeah
mean?
my mentality is I definitely wish list it if I definitely want it, but if I'm just kind of like, oh, I'll wish list it if I'm not signed in, I go, whatever.
Yeah, no,
that's
that is the
that's
defining factor.
that's
Do I
my
have to
that's
sign
my
in? Fuck
divide.
it. Yeah.
And yeah,
Thank you
that's
so much for having me here, Andrew. This is
no
really fun.
glad to have you on the show. This is my way of, like, hey, I don't get to go to PAX or things like that, but devs should be able to hang out still. Um,
Yeah.
create
Maybe
more.
one day we'll see each other at PAX or wherever else.
Yes, no. You never know. When I went to Toronto, there were like 10 Indiepocalypse devs there. It was
There you go.
I was overflowing with them. Um, but yes, no. Thanks, Alex. Thank you for being here. We're gonna go on a break now, and we'll be back with our next guest. But so see you all, everyone else, on the other half of, like, I don't know, 1 minute and 18 seconds. Till then, goodbye.
Bye.
Hello,
You
welcome
good?
back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Minutemen with themselves helping me out here as whenever I need be, overdoing the Freddy. I highly recommend people take some time out of your day and look up. I think you just look up "Do the Freddy." I think the cartoonist John Allison posted it at one point. I get mildly obsessed with it every now and then. It's transfixing. But anyway, we're back with our next guest, who you may know from this time in Indiepocalypse with issue 42, which sounds recent but is now 4 issues ago. Now a quarter of a year ago. It's Adrian and Valentine from Thunder Perfect Witchcraft. I almost said the name of the album.
All right,
Perfect
hello.
Witchcraft.
Hi.
Hello. Does that happen often? Are you often confused? Are you often confused, but conflated with the seminal current '93 album, Thunder Perfect Mind?
Basically, that's where the name came from. So if
Yeah.
you're actually getting confused by British neo-folk artists, we don't really mind. I mean, we are basically also doing a little bit of music, so yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Some time ago, the developer of Moonwings, he knew the album, but it's very rare that people know about this kind of music, so it isn't thematized very often, to be honest.
I can't believe people aren't regularly aware of Doom Folk and the work of David Tibet.
Definitely, yes, especially in the 21st century, right?
Yes.
I mean, what could be more current than doom, death, and, folklore, I guess, an extremely weird folklore.
Yeah, it's very. I don't know. I do my part on this show to get people to listen to it.
Really?
Yes,
All right.
during my preamble.
At the time to find a slightly more weird theme song at the very beginning, I would
Yes,
say.
I have my specific theme song. Drinking Boys and Girls
Turn up the
Choir,
noise.
the South Korean punk band. But
Great.
because it's only
And that's also part of the vibe that I love, especially about the indie scene in general. Like not only the punk vibe, but also the do-it-yourself vibes.
Yes.
I think you have discussed this prior, and I want to. It's such a shame that when it's gone. I want to intersect actually in the discussion of what is indie and what is not, and the question whether or not indie is actually a vibe or not, or whether it is a special kind of like, I don't know, a special way of producing video games. Because I feel like, yes, the term indie has lost quite a bit of meaning, and I absolutely loved, by the way, that you've taught it, that independent games which are actually funded, for example, by Sony, when we talk about the Outer Wilds,
Right.
are not independent at all because they literally depend on the money of others, right? And yes, I feel like we definitely have to think about how to relabel ourselves, especially when it comes to, like, I would say, larger events, when it comes to tagging and so on social media, because we also compete with video games that have a lot of marketing budget, that have a lot of reach, and I don't think we really do ourselves a favor here by still holding on to this indie thing, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it is this. Can you let go when I'm talking? I'm gonna drive myself mad.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
But or lower your noise gate maybe. Will that work? Okay, thank you. Hello. Okay, yes. No, sorry. If I heard myself echo forever, I was going to go insane because that means I get to hear my voice, and that's the thing I try to avoid.
Keeping the kind of topic of about Count 93, right?
Yes. No, that is. I think part of it is indie. I think has evolved as distribution models have changed. Because I think plenty of people who used to be indie would make the things themselves, but then require a publisher to distribute it. Like if you made an album, you couldn't just put it on Bandcamp. You needed like Warner to like sell it at record stores and stuff for you. Whereas like
I can tell you, making music is not much different from making games. You encounter the very same problems with it. When I try to release an album, basically very, very few people care about it if I don't try to drag them onto the music, so to speak of. And it's very similar for our video games. So we have to make a lot of movement to get people seeing our games. We don't have the same channels. It's a different thing.
Yeah, and I highly recommend people actually return to the roots and go back to just go to your local events, go to small scale local art fairs and zine fairs and
Definitely, yes. And also going back a little bit more to the general haptic feeling also of physicality and of materiality as well. You were talking about this earlier when you're talking about USB sticks and actually distributing things made by hand. And this is something that we can do in the indie sphere that it's not that easily possible, I would say, for bigger publishers, because it is more of a risk and it is also kind of weird. It's also kind of experimental, especially if you do some little packages in which you package your game with a lot of other stuff. And I also realized this, researching a little bit about scene culture as well, that this has always been kind of like this kind of do-it-yourself thing, because it in a smaller, I would say, smaller editions, you have the ability to take more risks, and this is what we should do as well.
When I was in Kanzine a couple of weeks ago, the person tabling next to me, she was literally doing some more coloring on zines she was going to sell later at that event. She was just adding the colored pencil coloring to the zine. It's very much
It's very dope, but I
Yeah.
can hardly do this for myself, so I don't see myself going to any events with my stuff.
Yeah.
I rarely have the time or the energy or anything. I'm very, very used by making the stuff I do already and going to events and going around saying, hey, here, I have done something. I think it would overstrain me. I couldn't do what I would want to do then. So actually, the internet is a very practical place for distributions for the stuff that we do. And I think that sharing digital copies got it got its benefits, you know what I mean? So making USB sticks is great, it's cool. I probably would get some if I would come by some of them, but I think it's very intense in getting people to buy them, and you don't know if they play your USB sticks. That's the other thing. Are they saying, okay, I have a novelty at hand, a USB stick with a cool, rare game? Or do they say I have a cool game on a cool medium? That's two pair of shoes. Do you follow?
Yeah. No, I very intentionally have been no, these things are infinite print on demand. I understand the appeal of the rarity that they publish in games on, but that's usually because they're publishing on Switch and things like that, where I imagine they have to do production runs. And when I need to make a new physical copy of Indiepocalypse, I just put a USB stick on my computer and drag a file over, and I've made it. I make them one by one. But speaking of that, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, also yes. When it comes to being demanding, I think it can also very quickly devolve into even more frustration, right? I mean, it is already for some people at least kind of frustrating putting your stuff out there, putting your art out there, and basically getting little to no echo. Sometimes I see it, especially when you go around a bigger city, that people are just handing out stuff, especially musicians handing out their CDs, and they rarely look particularly happy with what they are getting back from the people. So yes, I think we also have to account for our own mental health and kind of balancing out what we are doing versus what we are getting out of it. It's very similar to the argument of how perfect do you want your video game to be or not.
At events, it's I have a difficulty. One of my difficulties with online is that things are kind of everything is kind of flattened. I cannot parse what a like means, but in person it's easier to see if someone is disinterested or very genuinely interested, which is both both unfortunate parts. At the one point you don't it's hard to tell how much someone likes it when they just click that little heart, but also you don't see all the people who would come up to your booth, be like, and then just kind of walk away.
Yeah, sure, but it also the other way around is also great. I mean,
Yeah.
I've just listened to this story, like people coming to your booth, coming back again, actually playing and loving your video game.
Yes,
I see how effective this can be as well, and I think this is also one of the better things about what we are doing.
Yeah, at my local market that I'm going to in like 2 weeks, I've had people come 1 week and then bring their friends to check it out the next week or the next month.
Yeah, that's great.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
and I still think about that, but I got to ask you the important Indiepocalypse question that I need to know as my bit of
Oh, I see.
informal
Cut off
survey.
bonus. That's right. Yeah, sure. Obviously.
How did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
I found it on the itch page. It was
It's prominent.
prominent placed, I would say. Yeah.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
And
Yeah.
I think I also flew around a bit in different communities and boards. And as I said before the show, if you search for underground games, you stumble upon each other because the scene is not that big.
It's a family. I mean, it's a large family. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a large-ish family gathering, but it is still a family gathering. You're still kind of familiar, and you realize, all right, that person over there, yes.
Is doing
Heard about
something
him.
similar. You have to dig a lot through different games to find each other, but the scene of playing and
Engaging with it, yes.
these underground games is not that big. And if you're honest, many things on itch are demos or small projects that people fire up and then forget around. And if you search for people who are giving energy into these kind of things, it's like a strain of underground music or experimental cinema, you're
Yeah.
bound to stumble upon each other.
But I wouldn't knock people just uploading demos because
No,
yes,
it's
I mean
right. They can
feels
do it, but it makes things hard for some other people. I think
Yeah, but it feeds into the anxiety of like I only upload things once they are perfect or not. I mean, I think people should just do stuff.
it's
They should
about
just
making
upload
things perfect. I think it's rather about caring about the stuff you made and posting it online and many things. So you don't play these games. I do.
Oh Jesus!
So you have
I resent the
Yeah.
accusation in public.
I would say that I'm much more in contact
Yeah,
with
definitely.
no budget productions. So that's what I do most time of the week. I play really small video games developed by one or two persons in their spare time, and I check them. And many are not that well developed. They are very small projects. It's okay that they are there. But if you're a normal video game player, they don't have any appeal for you because they are very raw concepts. And
Yeah.
many people think, oh, I like that. I like true gaming. But if it's really bare bone and you have to dig through half-baked GUIs or non-existent menus, or not many 2 weeks ago, some guy asked me to compile his game. And it wasn't working. I was trying to play it and I said, hey, it doesn't work. And he told me, oh, compile it. And I said, okay, how do I compile it? And he said, yeah, compile the engine. There is no engine for your operating system. You have to compile it
Yeah,
and then please play it. And I tried to do that, but it didn't work. And when I told him, and he told me, work it out, please, and upload it.
but it's also
And it's okay that he is asking such things, but I won't do them. And I don't know about anybody else who does this.
Yeah.
So we are talking about small productions when I talk about underground and independent games, because that's what I think independence is. Independence is doing your things on your own coast in your own time. You don't get paid for it by a company, because if the company pays you, you
You're
ain't
independent.
independent anymore, and you don't do it on the bank account of your wife or something.
Yeah,
that's not independence.
Yeah.
The other
And
secret,
it's
the other secret
harmful
publisher in the
For
independent
you and
space.
many other people.
Yeah, that's the other secret publisher in the independent space is the full-time working spouse. That is.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you've probably read Blood, Sweat, and Pixel, for example. I'm thinking about the Stardew Valley story, by the way. Great game. I love him, and I love the game as well. But still, yeah, it's kind of weird, right? I mean, just like being able to do this is also kind of like a privilege.
Yeah.
And yes,
But
it is some form of funding.
Speaking of small independent games, tell me about The Vault of Minos.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it is kind of like our first bigger project. It was also supposed to be like a, you know how it is, the 3-month pandemic project.
Ah,
We're
yes,
like,
of
oh
course.
yeah, let's see. Let's do like a very quick jump and run game. And suddenly, the very quick jump and run game that was working only with silhouettes because it has to be so simple and so on and so on, and just had to have one level, suddenly got kind of bigger because we felt like, I don't know, it was really primitive because it just felt like, all right, the jumping feels good, so we should probably do more with this kind of like jumping engine. Suddenly we had wall climb, suddenly we had a rudimentary story, suddenly we had like some sort
Actually,
of
it was the other kind around. I showed you that maze that I built, an auto-generated maze and a little figure in it, and told you, hey, what do you think about it? And then you said, the idea is good, but the jumping is shit.
Yeah.
And we actually worked around
I wanted
3
to be
months
nice to you.
on the jumping.
alone,
But then the
yes.
jumping felt good, and we made a small
made it
little
into a-
game about it. And
Yeah, it is kind of like a I mean, oh man, it sounds like rattling off keywords and keywords that I also personally sometimes like dislike in many ways. Yes, it is procedurally generated, but it is actually mostly a jump and run game, which is about going through some weird Greek tomb, fighting monsters in a very particularly Pacific way, trying the Nazis to basically trying to stop the Nazis taking over the world, and by the way, loot a lot of coins. Yes.
And yeah, it's procedurally generated. It absolutely is, but it's the kind of procedurally generation you will like.
That works. Yeah, it's a kind of like arcade.
It is fun. I had fun playtesting it myself. I'm very sure it is good. There's actually no questions about it. I made over 700 points in it. If you think it's bad, beat my score, then we can talk. You can basically get it for free, compile it yourself. All what we do is open source software. Build yourself the binary, crack our demo, or play the demo, because our demo is wonderful as well. It's the most beautiful demo. My demo is better than most of the games you pay for. You will enjoy this demo, you will love it.
I love the confidence, by the way.
Yes, no. Listen, you're talking about people need that confidence in the independent space. Sometimes it's what you need to publish something, you know?
Yeah, I wish I had the confidence of my coder, by the way. The art is highly mediocre, but it's still not.
The art is wonderful. It's a work of art. And buy something like this for money. This is the real art that someone made because he believed in it. Adrian never thought he would make a single dollar with this art, but he made it anyway.
Yeah.
And he sat there many hours. Actually paid more for the Steam release than we ever got in. Our game is deeply underground.
Hey! Now you've got at least. How much does the Steam release cost? How much?
Yeah,
does it cost?
exactly. I mean, but we got in the Indicate and not Indicate. Indiepocalypse.
Yes,
we got in the Indiepocalypse bundle.
It was
and that
most
is
out of our income,
And that-
I think.
And that paid at least like
some-
$60 US.
definitely yes, exactly. And this is basically the high point of our career up till now.
That's-
And by the way, this podcast
Wonderful. But it wasn't, and excuse me to say, it was very cool, but it wasn't the most important game of making this game. Releasing it was absolutely great.
Yeah.
We did this because we love video games,
Yeah,
and this is a beloved video game, and that's what I personally want to play. When I play games, I want to play games from people who believed, hey, I have a really good idea. I don't want the big corporate stuff that got chewed up again and again and again. I want creative ideas, and
people
Yeah,
that
that's-
just love making games in general. Yes.
And that's why I do this whole thing. I want I'm a little sicko who loves a small weird art, and I'm like, what if I just made it? You don't even have to think about it. You have to wade through the demos. I'm giving you 10 of them each month. That's the idea of like I am bringing the weird small games that I love just to people.
Yeah. I mean,
I
it's
enjoy
about
your
contribution.
lists a lot.
Yeah.
I enjoy your lists a lot. Every month I don't get your bundle every time, but
we don't need
I click through the games of your
Yeah.
collection every month and look, okay, what are these guys?
And pretty much everybody who contributes
we
is
played
amazing.
the Missionary a few weeks ago, and it was so fucking good.
Yeah.
I basically rolled on my floor and got down and showed at Adrian.
Yes.
Yes, and I loved it as well, definitely. Sorry for the F-bomb, by the way. I'm not
No,
really sure how this
they
works
are-
in
they
this
are allowed.
podcast.
What is the F-bomb?
Huh?
Did I do F-bomb?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Sorry,
No,
that
they are.
wasn't intended.
This is, Indiepocalypse is a zine for adults, or very precocious teens. I got scolded last month, because
Really? For what?
I was just cropping I was just making my regular kind of whatchamacallit, my covers, or like my little rotating button that is like the little button for the edge
I
page.
saw it.
Yeah.
And it had,
I know
like-
exactly which one you're talking about.
And the way it cropped a little bit of the breasts in it, and I got a comment that someone was like,
oh
"Excuse
my
me,
god!
excuse me, this has," and I was like, "I guess it does." I guess technically speaking, it was one of those things where I was not expecting that, but I guess I should technically crop it, which I did.
Yeah, I mean, it is sometimes also hard to gauge. I mean, as my day job, I'm actually teaching, and sometimes I usually try to do content warnings on what
Right.
I'm teaching for my students, and sometimes you're just not as aware of what should get which warning, and I also always feel bad, like it's
Yeah.
at one point you're like, okay, shit, I did this wrong, but on the other hand, it's like, oh my god, you can do this wrong, you know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
it has been similar for you, right?
Right, it's like some of these one of the games, Catharsis, I forget what issue it was in. I had just like a dick hanging out in the screenshot and it was sitting around for like, I don't know, months until someone pointed it out. I was like, oh, that is just hanging out there. I didn't even think like it just
Yeah,
kinda,
that's a
it's just kind
Yeah.
of glazed over.
And I think it's an important part to actually, I would say, embracing also this kind of like transgressive or more transgressive, quote unquote, and in large quotation marks.
Yeah.
I'm just borrowing the 40 quotation marks from earlier because I also loved this particular phrase. And those transgressive, quote unquote, art. Because otherwise, yes, you will never get to certain topics, towards certain discourses, and so on
What
and
with
so on.
underground magazines from the 80s or U comics, they were also very dirty. It's
What
it's
should they say?
Yeah.
what counterculture is about. We can do that stuff that is morally not clean.
I would
Yeah.
say contemporary independent culture is built on the shoulders of mountains of smut.
Yes.
Yes,
There's
basically.
that weird thing where you find progressiveness in transgression because like they were publishing things that were like quote unquote unpublishable,
Exactly, and it's also a way of negotiating identity, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to sexuality, especially when it comes also about gender and gender identity and so on and so on. How can you negotiate this properly if you just like, I would say, wall off particular, I would say also the bodily part or the visceral part of your identity, right?
Yeah.
So yes, you have to have transgression to properly negotiate particular sorts of topics. And I feel like, especially, and I'm not that much into ranting against mainstream games as my coder actually is, because
I'm not ranting.
I love to play them.
Oh,
But
so
I feel like, yes, especially the sheer size of them sometimes kind of like stops them from getting to the actual heart of the matter.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are stopping a little bit short.
Yeah, I have, I'm, whatever, fucking king of the indie space or whatever. Kind of fucking top shit indie guy who's like, indie games, but whatever. I like big budget stuff too sometimes. Like it's about, I've said on the show before, it's not like you need to be 100%.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to sink 80 hours into Baldur's Gate. It's just true.
Right. It's not
Well,
about
not-
it's not about being like I need to be 100% indie. It's like you have to have a balanced diet, you know.
Def-
I have no hate for big commercial
Yes.
productions. One of my favorite games is Hyperrook. It's wonderful. Or FTL, Faster Than Light. I played it very, very long. It's a great big production.
Before this very show, I closed down
King of
Yakuza
Dragon
6
Pass.
Song of Life.
excuse me, what did you play? I'm sorry.
Before this show, I was playing Yakuza 6.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh my god, I have to get into the Yakuza series as well, but it's so daunting. It's like
Right.
8 games, right? Where
well-
do you even start? I mean, I have a backlog of 300 games.
Well,
anyway.
here's the thing. I gotta tell you, what you should start is you start as Shenmue. I think you need it properly. That's like Yakuza 0.
Oh yeah, I'd never finish it. Yes,
Or not
yes.
Yakuza
I have
0.
actually Shenmue on a Steam.
But not the crap. There's a game called Yakuza 0. That is like the heart of what those games are. Is that they're like Shenmue, but
Shenmue is one of
shit.
my earliest gaming dreams and desires. I mean, when the Dreamcast was coming out, I was like about 7 or 8 years old, and I was looking up in magazines, and there was like exactly like Shenmue as the prime game of the Dreamcast, which died too early.
Yeah.
And I never got around to it because my parents couldn't afford a console and so on and so on.
Yeah,
I grew up particularly poor, but still, yes. Now I have it, and I don't play it, and it's so weird sometimes how things go, right? But yeah, I should get around to it.
It's a beautiful game. It's one of truly one of my. If you gave me a massive budget, I'd probably just fucking make Shenmue. I just
Yeah, definitely. Also, finish the story, right? Because I've heard it basically ended on a cliffhanger.
right,
Then they
no.
did a third one 10 years later, and then they ended that on a cliffhanger as well, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I wouldn't make Shenmue because I'm not Japanese. I don't have the inroads to their culture. I'd make my American version of Shenmue.
Ah, I see.
That is
Man,
like-
maybe you should do a German version of Shenmue. Man.
yeah.
Next, Thunder Perfect Witchcraft
Right,
project.
well,
I
what-
adopted.
exactly. It's not like what is like my version of like what is like Shenmue, but it takes place in New England. You know, is my thought.
Yeah,
Or even
trying to pay loans, I guess.
Yeah, it's all
Try-
about it's about the beautiful like minutia of just like everyday life and like cranking the. It's
But
all
you're actually in New England. That's really cool. I think you have like this Indian summer thing right now going on, right? I mean, should be around this time. Or was it in September? I kind of like get this sometimes wrong, but I feel like I've heard and I've seen also pictures that especially New England is particularly beautiful
yes.
in fall, and early fall, yes.
the leaves are turning, as they say. It's orange and brown everywhere. We've got the nice golden hour constantly of the way it hits the sun. New England is picturesque, you know.
Awesome, yes.
In Germany, things get ugly in November.
Yes, and it rains all the time. It is basically very great. We actually went hiking 3 hours today, and it was great. It was great. So
Yeah, we've got all sorts of like the wildlife comes out. The turkeys come to roost and hang around. I mean, they're here like year round actually now.
you have wild turkeys?
We have,
Like seriously?
yeah, we have wild turkeys just walking up and down the street, just hanging out.
That is absolutely adorable.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They used to just like hang out around our house for a while, eating our feed, but they eat a lot of feed. Also, it's like oh, it's cool, but it's because of deforestation. it's a real issue.
Oh my god, yes.
It's
Once
like
when we hiked here, we saw Auerhahn. I
Yes.
think it was a giant bird that just went across our way, and we weren't sure what we saw just before us. They are so rare in these
these parts,
regions, and it was like a mythical entity that walked across the way.
Yeah, who needs unicorns when you can have our hands, right?
yeah,
Yes, and I feel also to go back to actually indie game and game development, I feel like getting those basically getting out and trying to I think work with what you see in your everyday life is also very important.
Yeah.
Right now, and this is not a pitch. I swear it is not a pitch. Just we are basically working on a game that is trying to I would say like articulate this particular kind of feeling, like getting out and getting out in nature, and especially getting out in nature in the context of, I would say, also our own region, right? And trying to tell something that is also very particular to your own experience.
Yeah,
When I make games, I
Okay.
try to comprehend experiences. It's a thing that I can, and I think that's another thing that we can do as indie game developers, besides shipping Unity boxes or making good pitches or something. I think one of the best games of these very underground productions I played in the last few months was The Universe Tastes Like Chicken. It was a
Oh
really
yeah, that is great.
well-made game, and the developers, we had some email contact afterwards, and they are working to improve the sound and audio effects, and I test played this version, and I can really recommend to check this game out when the update comes.
Sorry, what was that game
If you
again?
want a recommendation, the gameplay, it was,
No,
how
the
do
name
you
of the
call
game.
it?
The name of the game.
The universe tastes like chicken, or the solar system tastes like chicken, I think. One of these, you will find it. Tastes like chicken universe or solar system.
Yeah.
I think solar system. It's about a sun devouring the world and thinking about what it eats in the process. It's an interactive fiction game made with Twine. Very
That
good
is
experience.
basically about climate change, about climate collapse as well, and about like feeling, getting back to our first topic of actually doom and gloom. It is basically a game about getting, I would say, articulating the experience of going towards some sort of like
Yeah.
ending.
It was a result from this anti-capitalism jam. I don't know if you were aware that it happened. It was, I think, maybe 500 people made games there, all with anti-capitalist agendas, and some of the results were rather good. I don't play jam games usually, because I often wait for the developers to go over it again or something, because jam games oftentimes feel a bit unfinished, yeah. But this jam really had some interesting and good results. I can recommend to look into it if you're into underground game.
Yeah, sometimes just like skating through, just like your itch recommends or other people's, like, make good use of the like your what I forget what that thing is called. Let me go there real quick. Like that itch recommends section, not itch recommends. Your feed. Just click on your feed and like,
On the user page, you
Yeah.
can see what people have in collections. Yeah, you can create public collections, and this is what you mean.
Human curation, yeah.
yeah. It's a great
Yeah,
way
that's-
to just like find a bunch of games.
Yeah, it's great. And you talked about curating and automatic algorithms before, and I think itch is one of the examples for platforms that go a bit against this trend. It's not perfect. Itch has its flaws, but a thing that it does good is to allow you to find underground and indie production.
Yeah,
Yeah, that felt
because that is like people just like liking and curating things. It's like it's not like the problem you run into with like traditional publications is that they want people to read them. They're selling a quote unquote digital magazine or such. They're like selling website traffic basically. But a person just rating or adding a collection on itch is like just doing it for them. So you get a very pure version of that.
Yeah, and especially you get something unexpected out of it, right? Because I've heard early in this podcast we're talking about algorithms, curation by algorithms versus curation by humans, and I tend to agree that curation is important, it is needed. I mean, my co-author Valentin has actually talked about this earlier when it comes to I would say, basically too many games that are not particularly good. But human curation is also so important because it gives you the aspect of the unexpected. And the unexpected is something that is so vital to why we do art. And it's also so vital about art as well. It is also so vital about, for example, literature. I mean, if you would just like open a book, and you would already know how this is going, how this is ending. You would probably say, all right, this might have been a fun read, but it hasn't been a particularly compelling read.
Yeah.
And basically curation can work in a similar way. I mean, yeah, sure, the algorithm will just feed you with what you expect anyway because it is your taste. But what about the beauty of just opening something up where you're not really sure, where you challenge yourself, where you find something unexpected, where you find a perspective also on video games and what video games can do and what art can do that you don't necessarily, had before.
Yeah, and if you are into games that are different from the mass market and think yourself of a creator of underground games or want to play such games, I would like to ask you to come to Lemmy and use the underground game board or use it on Mastodon as a tag because it allows each other to find. I think it's very important to concentrate.
To band together. Yes.
Yeah, and what we are missing right now are good places to discuss the creation and the sharing about such games.
It doesn't have to be our places per se, but just like some sort of like space, creating space, also creating expressive and creative space. And you were talking about local spaces and material spaces, and those are important. But we also need online spaces that can do just that.
Right. I think it's good to have like, it feels strange to say, but I think it's good to also have intentionally smaller online spaces too, because I think it's if you can.
Yes, exactly.
I recently stumbled over the old web, and it's a very interesting place. I'm a bit active there. There are some old web forums filled with very creative and
weird people.
People. It's great. Yes, you can find really weird and unique
personality,
and their art. Many of the people there are doing actively art and are creating things, and it's great to see. It's how I would like the internet to be at all. Then there are other. I use Mastodon a bit or different Mastodon places, but it's hard to create a sense of community on the big social media pages. I think for what we have in mind for such niche interests, the big new social media pages aren't well fit. It's too hard to find and recognize each other because you're so stuffed with information and there are so many things and you cannot overview them all.
And like every site that has like the personal feed, I think is like very like counterintuitive to that, because it's like, oh, this is my version of it. I think everyone needs to see like that you can't have a conversation if everyone's not seeing the same version of the conversation, you know?
Exactly. The decentralized. Oh, good God, what a word! The decentralized kind of like type of communication. It can work out, but at the very end, you still need this classic form of like the board of the forum.
Right.
I mean,
that is
exactly.
Like, it lends itself to like, oh yeah, it makes sense, because it's not like, well, you see every statement that's said. Imagine having a conversation in real life where you can only hear 2 of the people out of 5, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of like works like, it is very similar in a way to those people that I've mentioned before that trying to dish out their CDs in the middle of a big city.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, you can get some sort of like content out of it, but you never quite get a conversation out of it, right? It's still, everything is so fast moving. There are so many people, so many conversations also at the same time, which you cannot listen over, yes. And in this regard, of course, it is important also to use maybe the platform that shall not be named on this podcast. I mean, the actual T-bomb, Twitter bomb. Well, yes, but on the other hand, yes, we need to set up those alternative spaces sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do this quickly, I think the moment that indie gaming had also in the 2010s will at some point pass.
Yeah, but the indie games in the 2010s are often over-idealized nowadays. So yesterday we looked at a Moby Games page from, what was the game called?
Oh man, Aquarius. It's such a great game, by the way.
I'm sure it's good, but we were really surprised to see that how many 35, 65.
36 people work actually on it, yes.
Yeah, and you always have the notion it's a small production
And just,
done
like a
by
direct
one or
view,
two people, and when there was such a big team, I think the heydays of indie gaming were the early 2000s.
Oh man, do you have any
Actually,
recommendations?
the whole Fin games scene was really it was great. There were many small productions shared on the websites of the creators. There were also small tools of gaming and some tools that were zweckentfremdet, reshaped to make games, repurposed. So in Finland, many people worked with some media presentation.
GameMaker,
Not
yeah.
GameMaker, it was before GameMaker. It was scripts that they were taught in schools, Scandinavian schools, taught their pupils early how to program little multimedia projects. So there were many, many young game developers with much spare time around in the early 2000s. And these games...
Many of them had big careers.
Some of them had big careers. So
I mean,
the guy
Barber's
who
You-
made Hotline Miami started out in the scene, if I
Barber's
remember
You, the guy who
correctly.
made Barber's You as well, yes.
Right.
And,
No, I remember, probably over a decade ago, I was like telling people like, hey, no, have you played this thing called Cactus Arcade? You know, it was like,
Oh man, yeah.
yeah, it was like that's the other thing is like all of like the 2010s indie developers that everyone knows, like they've all been around since 2000 making games. It's just people didn't know who they were, and like that's the other.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so you think the quote unquote indie explosion? I mean, that's a very interesting
Right.
and probably
I mean,
true
a
way
lot
of
of it
looking
is-
at it. It is an explosion of popularity, not
Right.
of actually people making games.
And I mean, a lot of it is honestly just like Microsoft Summer of Arcade and like spending a huge amount of effort to be like play Super Meat Boy and Braid, you know, that kind of.
Oh yeah.
that kind of like when you have one of the largest corporations in the world putting a lot of their
Just
effort
backing
into
you.
your game, it helps to create that kind of impression. But like Meat
Yeah,
Boy
so we're
was-
getting
Meat
back
Boy
to
was-
are you really independent, right? If
Yeah,
you're
but I mean, like,
dependent on Microsoft backing you, exactly.
Yeah, Meat Boy was a Flash game for how long before that? You know, it's all something. You know, it all comes from something. It's
Yeah, I
all-
mean, it kind of like this entire conversation kind of like right now feels like staring into a mirror, and the mirror is staring back and looking at you intently, and he's asking, how independent are you really?
Yes.
Like, yes.
but
All right.
but I think we're cresting over an hour here. We're kind of cruising
Yeah, I
in
mean,
on this show.
yeah, sure. That's all right. I mean, thanks for being our personal soapbox
No,
on this regard. Yes.
we could go forever, and that's why I try to keep these to be a reasonable length. So I'm like,
Definitely, yes.
Do you want to go on forever?
Yeah, we can absolutely do this. We have time until I think 2026 or so.
Yeah,
Then we
yeah,
definitely have to take a vacation break at some point.
Love
there
to tell people
are
about
3-hour
games.
indie
Yeah,
podcast shows.
yeah.
But this,
Let's talk about two more years about underground gaming.
So
Yeah.
it was nice having us. Have a nice evening.
Yeah.
Play our games. They are good.
don't go away yet. You have to tell people where you can find your stuff. We have to close the show down properly.
Oh, sure. I mean, yes,
Dalton,
sure. I mean, we almost missed the self-promotion and true independent spirit.
Where can people look on your stuff on the internet?
Basically, we have a website, Thunder Perfect Witchcraft. It is like Thunder Perfect and witchcraft.org. And there are links to everything that we're doing. And we are not only doing video games.
We are doing all cool stuff.
Yes.
Everything what we make is great. Check it out. And all of our stuff is free, and most of it is open. All of it is open source software. Most of it, some of it with free art. So it's basically free software. If you go by Richard Stallman, it's cool. You
And
can
you also
download
do
even
music.
our paid title, but then you have to compile it yourself. Or you pay for it when you get it, but most of our games are free anyway. Play them, they are good.
And if you manage to not being able to compile your game yourself on your operation system, just write to us.
Yeah,
If
we
find
will
it
give you a
helpful.
tutorial.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll help you out.
Perfect. And then for my part, you know who I am. Go to indiepocalypse.com and you buy it. It's new there. You should check it out. I recommend it. Go to
It's
indiepocalypse.com.
good. It's great.
Yeah, if you buy issue
I'm good.
if you buy issue 42, eventually these people will get like, I don't know, $6 US, which turns into like €5 or so. You can get them like a sandwich. It all trickles down royalties. They're cool things. So you can get that. You go to indiepocalypse.com/tapes where you get the physical version. Indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe for a year. You get 2 months free. You can get the tapes there. You can get Jessica Mission games there. You can get physical zines. You get all the options are available for you at that platform. I'm finally like developing that ending plug voice, like the cadence. I kind of nailed it.
You nailed it. You totally nailed it.
Thank you. Valentine, Adrian, thank you for being here on the show. Thank you for making games. Thank you for the previously exited Alex for being on the show. Thank you all for listening. I should thank people for listening, shouldn't I? Should I thank people? I haven't done that.
You should thank people for listening. I mean, they spent now so much time listening to our rants, combined rants. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for being cool.
Thank you for hanging around. Thank you for listening to the show, whether you did it live or after the fact. I think about the show. I'm like, is this show fun to listen to? It's fun to be a part of it. Is it fun to listen to? The answer is still out on it. But if you're listening,
you know how it is with like friends just telling you that what you're doing is great, but what you're doing is actually great. I had a blast. Also listening to you in the first half. Don't worry about it, really.
Thank you. Good. That's good to hear. It's good to hear. After 126 episodes, what if I was a good host? One of these. Anyway, that's the show. That's why I try to end it, because a lot of times it doesn't end when I say I'm going to end it. We just keep talking. But thank you. I'm going to organize ways to get food. We'll be back. I'll be back next week with different guests. Look, that's another radio podcast thing. Telling people you'll be back next week. Anyway, goodbye. It's the usual ending song. See ya.